Just about every morning I read the newspaper and in the evenings watch some of the news. But of late, the news has been so disturbing that I've given myself a little bit of a break. And I'm reminded of a movie from the 1960s that with the title, It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World. Because it seems that we're living in a mad world right now. And to understand some of the madness, I think we need to look at our society today through the lens of Catholic social teaching, perhaps the greatest unknown treasure of our Catholic faith. And what you see when you start to look at our society through that teaching is a dangerous virus that seems to be infecting everything. And it's not COVID-19. So let me give you a diagnosis and then offer or suggest a cure. Our Catholic faith teaches that we should have an ordered society that works for the good of all. But there seems to be a spirit of chaos taking over everything, our politics, our economy, how we handle the virus, even our voting. And as Catholics, we believe in the value of cooperation and compassion. But it seems that a spirit of divisiveness and meanness is taking hold of our society. It's infected our politics and our families and friendships and those conversations. Yes, even the church. And we, of course, believe in the dignity of every person, no matter their age or gender, their race or legal status. But a spirit of cruelty and meanness seems to have taken over where people are demeaned and demonized. Our faith also calls for our society to work for the common good and to privilege the poor and the vulnerable. But during the past 30 years, powerful corporations and very wealthy people have manipulated our economy so that it benefits the wealthy and powerful while crushing the middle class and poor. We, of course, are pro-life, from womb to tomb. And we seem to be failing to protect the unborn and the newborn, our planet and immigrant children, and our water supply. The death penalty's back. And today so many children and families are suffering the slow death of poverty. I'm beginning to wonder, what God do we imitate these days? It seems like one of those gods is the God of power, grabbing power, controlling and dominating the narrative, preventing other people from sharing in power is the game today. Our other model seems to be the God of violence. Just this week, we learned that a homegrown terrorist group sought to kidnap and kill Governor Whitmer. And many wonder if there'll be a peaceful transition of power if the Democratic presidential candidate wins. So our society is crying out for a way forward so we don't destroy ourselves. So I want to suggest a cure. And last night, Father Elliot, one of our parish priests, and I were discussing these matters, and he looked at me kind of downcast and he said, what can be done? What can be done? And my suggestion is that every Catholic, everyone in this parish, every Catholic in the world, every Christian in the world must decide to imitate the God of Jesus Christ and not the gods of violence and power and cruelty. Now, what would that look like? Well, the prophet Isaiah in chapter 25, the reading we heard this morning, he describes what it would look like if we imitated the God of Jesus. Isaiah is speaking to the Jews who are in exile in Babylon and long to go back to Jerusalem and to their homeland. And he promises that one day God will invite all people to come to the city of Jerusalem, to this mountain. Now imagine people streaming to this mountain, and as you get to the top of the mountain, there are beautiful tables laid out everywhere. People sitting down, talking and laughing, and the tables are filled with food, rich, choice foods. You can smell the meat that's just been cooked in the vegetables. There are these large carafes of red and white wine, rich, full wine. People are laughing and enjoying themselves because our God is a gracious, generous host who gathers people. And then Isaiah says that as we're sitting there, God takes the heavy, dark veil that's covered all of humanity and takes it off. He takes off that veil of stress and loss and pain, that veil that comes from the destructiveness and death in our world. And he says that God swallows death and destruction itself, because our God is a God of liberation. The God who frees us from all that is dehumanizing and destructive. And then Isaiah describes how God removes the disgrace from God's people, removes those feelings of shame and powerlessness and helplessness, and restores our sense of dignity and worth. Ours is a God who brings about restoration and renewal of all things. This is the God we are to imitate. This is the God we are to live out of. This is who Jesus was. His entire ministry embodied this kind of God, made this kind of God present as he fed people and forgave people and freed people and gathered people and healed and renewed and restored them. And Jesus' beautiful presence permeates our gathering. Not only are we gathered and fed and freed and healed, but his beautiful presence permeates all things when we gather. So my friends, what can we do? When Father Elliott asked me that question, I looked at him and I said, could you imagine? Can you imagine if every parishioner in our parish, and every Catholic, and every Christian around the world, and every Christian parish and community around the world began to imitate the God of Jesus, the God of hospitality and welcome, the God of freedom and restoration and renewal? What would happen? What do you think would happen? And Father Elliott looks at me and he says, it would change the world. Right he was. It would change the world. We can change the world. Into our chaotic and divisive and dark world, we need to go and become and be the image and reflection of the God of Jesus for all people. Let's go. Let's do it.